Hi, everybody. Welcome to the ANOKHI Uncensored Show. I'm your host, Hina, and I'm really excited to have Roopa Modha as part of our ANOKHI advocate list. Rupa has been advocating for girls' education, so I really can't wait to get into the thick of things with her. Of course, Rupa, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of the ANOKHI advocate list. This is to commemorate, of course, this is to commemorate our 19th anniversary of ANOKHI, so let's get started. Rupa, first question for you. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly read a bio, but then I'm going to ask you to tell me more about yourself in your own words. So for our global audience who is watching and listening, Rupa, as a law student, held panels on women's education. One law in the state of Connecticut had still said that if a woman was raped by her husband, it wasn't rape. This was changed after the panel she held, where she brought this fact up to the panelists, including Connecticut Supreme Court Judge. Rupa is an ambassador for Girl Rising. Other celebrity ambassadors for Girl Rising include Priyanka Chopra Jonas and Frida Pinto. Rupa wrote a children's book, The Fish Who Wanted to Go to School, to raise money for girls' education. She also wrote I Rise by Agents of Harmony to raise funds for girls' education. And the song was composed by top composer in India and sung by the Saregama Little Champs contestant and actress Barbie Rajput. So here are a couple of accolades, and then I'm going to ask Rupa to tell me more in her own words. So with her advocating for girls' education, in 2021, she was chosen as Women of Heart Awards International Brand Ambassador, was judged based on talks on why we need to empower girls and women worldwide. In 2021, she's also the recipient of the Shatakshi Women's Award for her work in girls' education and women empowerment. And she was nominated in 2021 for the Women of Vigor Award that honors outstanding women in the world. This is just not even a handful. This is like a slice of all of these accolades that she has received. So Rupa, welcome to the ANOKHI Uncensored Show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for honoring me with this. I think I've been following ANOKHI for such a long time, and as the name says, it's a very unique publication. I think it is ANOKHI. You guys definitely encapsulate everything there is in media, and you guys have been supporting this community for such a long time. I think you guys deserve a lot of love and respect from all of us as well for all the hard work you put in. So I feel truly blessed to be part of this. I think it's really exciting to connect during this time and to be honored by a platform that I've been following and I truly respect. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, the love is mutual. So thank you so much, Rupa, for such kind words. Now, I want to ask you, for our global audience who's listening and watching this, your advocacy for girls' education, where did that start? How did that come to be?
Yeah, so let me step back a little bit then. So when I was really little, I actually used to do a lot of dance, I used to do sports, and I got a major injury actually in my hand, where a hockey stick had actually hit my hand, fused the growth plate, trapped the nerve, and the pain had gone up my arm, down my back, and I used to actually be paralyzed and could only see half my visual field. So growing up, it was very difficult, obviously, going through that when you're a young kid. And I loved school. Going to school, it made everything much easier for me because when I'm in the classroom, I just retained everything as is. And curiously, my friends, my classmates supported me, but I think the backlash was from the teachers and actually the principal. Oh. So they actually were the ones who were more in bully mode than my friends, and the entire community who was supporting me was pretty much my own age group. And that's not something we see these days. I think my classmates were really the ones that pushed me up and supported me. And in fact, because during that time, I could probably only attend a few days in class because in the mornings, I just couldn't move due to the pain. Mm-hmm. So I actually started taking college classes, started in 9th grade, and that's how I graduated in time with my classes. I actually started programming when I was in 9th grade, started doing all these college courses to earn the credits that I needed to graduate in time for high school, as they were penalizing me for knowing the material, knowing everything I was doing without being in the classroom. So the key moment actually happened when my principal called me into his office and told me, "You're never going to make anything of yourself. You will not graduate in time with your class. You're not going to do anything with your life. You might as well drop out of school."
What?
And this was something that hit me hard because I think he was only saying this because I was a girl, because I think the mindset is that, oh, I don't think you will be able to do as much just because you're this female figure in this school. And I was still doing well, right? Like academically, I was scoring top marks, but they would still mark me down just because of the fact, oh, you missed class. So at that time, going through this, I thought to myself, I'm never letting any other girl think she's subpar. And when he told me that I'm not going to make anything of myself, I won't be able to do anything, I won't accomplish anything, I was like, let me prove to you what I can do, right? Because that's the little fuel you need, that little spark that I was like, like, don't ever tell anyone, whether they're a girl or a boy, they can't do anything. You don't know their potential, and why suppress them? They should have been the figures in my life that were telling me that you can make that change, you can make a difference. So luckily, my parents, my entire family has always been focused on education. And obviously, I went on to graduate in time with my high school class. I got a degree in programming. I went to Brandeis, did a degree in health science, society, policy. I taught my classes at all the schools I went to, got my JD, and I was commencement speaker actually for all three. So I was commencement speaker for my ASBS and for the JD. And during this time, I came across all these articles about how girls around the world were not getting access to quality education, and they didn't have that motivating force. They didn't have that access. And I thought to myself, this is my chance. I can be that person. It only takes one person. I really believe in the power of one. Mm-hmm. And even if you affect one more person, that's at least one person you've helped and made a difference in their world. So that's where it kind of started. And that's where also in terms of programming, we think of it still as this male dominated field. And there's another moment there too, where I walked into the classroom. I was the only girl in the room. And the professor asked me, are you in the right place? And I was like, of course I'm in the right place. Are you in the right place? Because this is
my gosh.
And I'm here ready to learn, right? So we still have these biases even within our communities here. Like, we think of these as third world issues. We still think, oh, the mindset that girls can make it doesn't exist in this modern world, but it still does. And I think even in one of the classes where we had to build a computer from scratch, the professor was like, are you sure you'll be able to handle this? I was like, yeah, don't worry. Mine was the only computer that worked on the first try. So these are things that had affected me through the years. And I was thinking to myself, I want to help girls come up. It's not, no one else will support us if we don't support ourselves. And even here, we see that women can do anything. ANOKHI is female driven. The top voices for ANOKHI are women. They're the ones who are making the change. So we can't say girls can't do anything. And to me, that's what I think needs to be reinforced, is that we can make a difference. Girls can top any field we want. We look at any field these days, women are at the top, whether it's media or law, computer science, medicine. The top names are there. Even for NASA's recent launch, most of the women were the programmers in charge. So I think this is something that I wanted to do. And when I realized that I could help other girls, I jumped on it. So even while I was, when I got my associates, I actually helped raise money to build a school in Sri Lanka that they use to teach girls all this new education. And the thing is that when you do these advocacy initiatives, I think the importance is also sustaining them long term. Sometimes we just build it up, we're able to raise the funds, and sometimes people drop out, think, okay, that was enough. But we need to make sure to follow up and follow through on all these. And that's why with Girl Rising, Indian Dreams Foundation, these are organizations that still maintain those ties to the girls and make sure that they can follow through from beginning to end on their journey. And that's really where my, I guess, interest started. Is I was told I couldn't make it, and I realized I could tell someone they could. So I think,
wow, that is so interesting. So where did you go to school? Where did you grow up?
So I was actually born and raised in Massachusetts. So even right now I'm in Massachusetts, but I've kind of been with media work. It took me more to Connecticut and New York. Sure. So my law school is actually in Connecticut. So
so I just wanted to kind of let our audience know that all of this stuff happened here. It wasn't in India, or it wasn't like you were saying in a third world country. It all happened here, this resistance to allowing women and girls to be able to follow through on male-dominated careers.
Exactly. So even in terms of, I think throughout my schooling, luckily for the most part, it's been great. Everyone's supporting women, but even these one or two instances should not be taking place. So I feel like in this point in our lifetime, in this point in the world, we shouldn't be seeing this happening as frequently as it is. Because even in terms of law, I was looking at statistics before, even in all these companies here in the US, law firms, very few women make it to the partner level. And that's something that I think needs to change. And that's actually why I had actually started my own law firm, because of one of my male professors who told me, if you have the ability to do your own law firms, then you can do more yourself and keep control and make a difference. And I think as much as there are some males who thought women can't do it, we do have to acknowledge those men who did support us as well. And so So for me, my dad's just always been like, he always wanted girls. My mom said that when she was pregnant with my sister, he said he was praying that he gets little girls. So he said that he wanted to be the one to encourage women and be there. So I've been really blessed to have parents and a sister who they have shown what women power is. And my dad's been such a good advocate and support. So I think that for this, I think it's very key to have those male people supporting us as well. We need the males to support us. We need women to support women too. And
absolutely. It makes such a huge difference. And especially like you were saying, even though it's one or two instances of being told that you can't do something, those instances weigh very heavily on your soul. You know what I mean? And that is something that everyone needs to understand, that, oh, sure, people can say, well, it only happened once or it only happened twice throughout your entire career, academic career journey. But you know what? It shouldn't happen at all, because those two instances really weigh heavily on one person.
And it could have gone the other way. If I didn't have that support system, and if I see, oh, my principal is someone who's this figure who's idolized within the school, a higher up official is telling me, oh, you can't make it, I might have believed it. But luckily, I've always had confidence in myself, and I know that I can make a difference. And my parents have always said that help other people. That's the mindset that we've always grown up with. And they actually grew up in Gujarat in the same town Mahatma Gandhi grew up in. So my family's always followed that mindset that be the change that you wish to see in the world. So even as a kid, I remember even besides supporting girls' education, I had seen some of my friends who did not have enough income to even support bringing themselves a snack to snack time. So I would give them mine instead. And I actually used to talk to the principal and let them know that these students don't have enough. Is there anything we could do? And I remember at lunch, the lunch lady told me, okay, I'll give you more portions so then you can split it so it ends up as a full meal. So,
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
These little moments, and I never really thought much of it growing up. This is just stuff that was innate within me and inherent in my upbringing to help others. And I think if we see more people who could do that, we could change the world in a second. I think that's the thing that needs to change. Even if this talk, let's say, inspires a couple more people to help, we're closer to living in a world that has a fair life for everyone. And I think equality for all is what we're hoping for one day.
Of course. So speaking of advocating for girls' education, let's get into our questions with regards to advocacy, because I'd love to get your personal and professional perspectives on these. So my first question for you is, what does advocacy mean to you?
So to me, I feel like it's being a voice, an effective voice for change, and using our voice to amplify the needs of those who otherwise might be ignored. So for me, when I saw girls were not getting equal access or quality access to education, I realized that I can amplify that need by speaking up about it. Because I actually really believe in the Sanskrit philosophy of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which is the world is my family. And the second you start looking at the world in this perspective, seeing that the world is your family, you realize that when you help others, you're helping your own. So we don't need to see the world as, oh, the other versus the other, right? Like we need to see it as a collective and see that each person there is important, is significant. We should be helping everyone come up. And I think when you see it from that perspective, you realize that as an advocate, you have power to make positive change. Because I think sometimes we look at advocacy and think of it with negative connotations too. But I think if you're doing it right, you're doing it for the right causes, it can go a long way and you can make that positive change by being that voice of change. So that's how I perceive advocacy.
Now, you sort of answered that question now, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Why is advocacy important to you?
So for me, I think it's because we can be that catalyst for change, right? For that positive change in the world. And I really feel like we can all make a difference. I think many times we see things happening in the world and we can think to ourselves, oh, someone else will take care of it. We don't need to take part. We don't need to engage in this. And I think that it's so key to be that one to take that step. Even if someone else is doing it, you can amplify and build to that structure. So if the foundation's there, that's great, but why not make it rise higher, right? So the more voices we add to the conversation, the more diverse perspectives come in, the more opinions are out there, the more chances we have to reaching an effective solution that's good for everyone involved and maybe could solve a problem that otherwise might not have been solved. So I feel like it's important because you can change the world in a second just by contributing even a little idea. So for education, with girls' education, I think we see the statistics that girls don't have access. There are barriers to them getting education. And I think if we can help towards that, to make that change, even push even one girl ahead in life, I think we're getting closer to a goal that otherwise would be neglected. And that's why advocacy is essential. You need people who are willing to sacrifice their time, sacrifice a lot of things towards helping other people. You can't just look at it and sit back and relax and watch. I think you have to be working towards a cause.
So tell me about your personal philosophy in advocacy.
So I think in terms of my personal philosophy, I feel that if you're going to be an advocate for any cause, it cannot be with any selfish or individual perspective in mind. You can't say, I'm going to advocate for this because I will then get XYZ accolades, or I will get the following things out of you. You can't be helping someone and want to gain yourself. So I think my philosophy is that you should always be looking at how you can help others. How can we make this world a better place? How can we leave it better for others once we're gone? So I think that you can't ever call yourself an advocate if you really are doing it for any selfish purpose. You need to be an advocate if you want to help others, and if you know that you can actually help others come up. Because when you look at statistics for girls, for example, I think the rates are declining. And I think there was a statistic I read a long time ago that said that if you educate even 10% more girls, a country's GDP rises by 3%. And that's quite significant, because when we look at the numbers, it might not sound like much when we just say 3%. But if you look at the national income that comes in, that's very high. And right now, I read in India, for example, they're losing billions because girls are being withdrawn from school as people are suffering during this pandemic, and it has affected the GDP. So I think that that's what we have to keep in mind, that help others. And I mentioned earlier that I believe in this philosophy of the world is my family. And when you think of it this way, you really feel like you need to help others. And that's why I help others, because I see that I can make a difference, and in any capacity. So not just girls' education. If there's any area I can help someone, I will do my best to help them out. So even I think a few years back, I was part of an anti-bullying gala that we organized with the New York Giants in New York, and that raised $10,000 to help anti-bullying. We gave the funds to bullying.org. And I think these are
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's great to be part of causes where you can make a difference, and it's nice to see the impact it can have. So all these little things they're minor things in my opinion, because I feel like there's a lot more to be done. Yeah. But it's nice to see these little changes take place and to see that you can make a change. And when you see that it helps others, it's great. So even for Indian Dreams Foundation, I helped them raise like the 10,000 in 3 days to become a vetted organization with the UN. That money will fund 30 girls for their lifetime. So full tuition, covers education, covers food, travel expenses, the full package for them. And to us, like
where are these girls located?
So like, I think so there are actually like several bases within India. So I think it's in India. Yeah, very rural communities. So they were loving it. I think to them, it's been a great change for them to see that they can get this education, they get the supplies, like everything. And I follow up with them pretty often. So even right now, we're trying to see if maybe we can organize another fundraiser for them and maybe do a talk. And I think my passion is also in Indian classical dance. So I'm trying to combine all of this into one. So might be some sort of dance fundraiser where I can perform, raise the funds, and then donate to them. Because I think that right now, especially, we've seen even in Indian Dreams Foundation, the donations aren't as strong because everyone's having a tough time right now financially due to the pandemic. So those are struggles that we had to overcome to try to figure out how can we still encourage people to donate, because they're really a very grassroots organization that the $1 you give, that dollar goes all the way to them. And that's something I was looking at too, because many organizations these days, like they do take cuts from whatever amount is contributed. So I think that's something that you want to try to get as much as you can over there, because to them, that $1 is a life changer. Over here, sometimes we don't really value the money that we have, so we don't notice its worth. And over there, they value everything. So that's why it makes such a difference.
So now you were telling me that you have your own law practice, correct? Yes. Now, how do you translate your advocacy to that?
So in terms of my law practice, so I work more in intellectual property law and entertainment law, which is trademarks, copyrights, all these issues. So what I'm trying to do is also support a lot of female-driven organizations with any capacity I can help with. So actually, even with this, I volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club that was in Shelton. So we actually, when I was in law school, I was actually based in Connecticut. So I used to be this like pre-pandemic, my life was very different. I was bouncing between states. So I would be emceeing one day in like California or New York, and then back in Connecticut for law school, in Massachusetts to see the parents, like back and forth. Like it feels like a different world now. Now I live in this little like rectangular box. Is what it feels like. And the only way you can be in a different place is to change the filter behind you. But these days, so for the law firm, that's where I've been trying to focus. I still try to partner up with these programs where women are being supported. So when I got my Wonder Woman Award, which is by the Malta House, they're actually a very female-driven organization that gives free medical care to individuals. So even with that, I supported them after I got the award because I didn't know much about the organization prior to getting this award. I was really excited when I was honored as one of the 7 Wonder Women for that year, because one of the other, the women they honored were just exceptional. When going through these, I think when I get these awards, I've been introduced to so many women who are just changing the world. So one of the other women honorees was actually one of the first African-American sportscasters in the US. So you see that women can make these changes. And with them, I also tried to connect through my law firm, and I helped out like the Connecticut Women's Education League. And I tried to support organizations with my law firm in these ways to help women rise up as well. So I try to do volunteer work, I do pro bono work, writing contracts for some of these women organizations. And that's something that I feel like sometimes finances limit us. And if I can help in these small ways, that's what I've been trying to do.
So now tell me how, basically share with me and my audience, why it's so important for people to incorporate a sense of advocacy into their lives like you have.
Yes. So I think that when you're an individual at home, everyone has some cause they are passionate about. There's something you see on TV. There's something that will ignite this passion within you where you're like, maybe I should be speaking towards this. Maybe I can help out. Maybe I can do something to make a difference there. And the analogy I really like to use is that when we look at a rainbow, right? Like each individual color on its own is so beautiful, but it's the collective, that totality is where the beauty lies. So similarly, I feel that each individual voice does have beauty. It does have power behind it. If you combine forces, if you create this total world where everyone's voices are being heard, we're actually more effectively reaching a solution. We're giving everyone a fair chance. And that's why as an advocate, if you're at home and you're wondering, should I be an advocate? Should I help towards a cause? The answer is always yes, because you're contributing a voice that's unique. Your perspective is different. We can ever say we all are thinking the same way. There's going to be at least one topic where we might disagree and have completely different perspectives. So as an advocate, you should speak up. Don't ever feel that you're not going to make a difference. Let's say even if your mindset matches someone else's and you're like, I didn't even need to say anything. It was important for you to speak up, to show that support, to show that, yes, there are similarities as well as differences. So that's why we need to incorporate it in every stage. It doesn't have to be a major organization. It doesn't have to be a major cause, but advocate even for the little things that you see. So for example, even when I was really little, I used to speak out if I saw something happen. I remember in one of my classrooms, there was bullying taking place. I had seen this poor kid had actually just gotten brain surgery. And this is like in like 3rd grade. So he had the stitches running across his forehead. And everyone was like, oh, look, it's Frankenstein, and saying all these negative things. So even then I spoke up. I actually told the teacher, and the teacher had said at that time, I can't really get involved too much in this because of the way this topic is. So I said, no, actually you should be. It was a sub we had. So the sub didn't want to take part. So I just went to the front of the room and just kind of gave this a lecture to my classmates to say, you cannot bully someone because I was always willing to speak up.
You were in grade 3?
I was in grade 3. So apparently there are a lot of stories like this from when I was little. In fact, like one of my high school friends had contacted me after we graduated a few years later through Facebook, once Facebook started, to say that you're the only one who actually used to speak out for us and could see through things and weren't afraid to speak up for a cause. And I didn't think of any of this as being major issues back then because I'm just kind of going through my day. But as an adult looking back, I was like, oh, I actually had that confidence and that ability then to be an advocate for change. So age also doesn't matter. That's something else I want to bring up, is that age doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter. All these factors are superficial. Anyone can be an advocate, and you can do that at any point in your life. So this one was a smaller cause. It was just a one-on-one bullying taking place. When I went to the front of the room and said, you cannot do this. This isn't right. He apologized to him right now. So I made them apologize. And I actually ran into this student a few years back at a local Target. And he was saying that changed his life. And he said he didn't drop out of school because of that moment.
Oh my gosh.
The effect of what you can do in one moment does have these cascading effects that we might not see in that moment. So to me, I really had even forgotten about this memory until I had met my friend. And he said, remember that day when you did this? And I was like, oh yeah, I remember this now. Because that's why speaking up, using our voice, we're given the ability to talk so we can make a change is how I see it. So if you have anything inside you, you need to say it and support others. We can't tell what others are thinking unless they tell us, right? So yeah, sometimes like we're good at talking, but we also need to listen. So advocacy also means listening well, listening to the cause, listening to the needs that are out there. And it's not necessarily physical or mental or anything. You have to listen and see, where do I fit in? Where can I help? And that's why in every stage of your life, every aspect of your life, you can advocate for change. So you can be an advocate in any area of your life and you will make a difference. You might not see it immediately, but down the line, you could look back and say, oh, that moment did affect all these other paths. And you can open doors for people. So I think always be willing to put in that time and effort.
Now, along with advocacy comes slacktivism, and slacktivism is the notion that by creating or tweeting a hashtag, that's also effective, giving the person an idea that they're contributing to the cause by sharing the hashtag. In your view, what are the pros and cons of slacktivism?
So I think these days, because we do live in this social media world, we do need people to continue to share topics through hashtags. It's a great way to get awareness for a cause. It's a great way to even, in many ways, brand it. So as I'm an intellectual property law attorney, I think my mindset often goes back to trademarking and copywriting. And sometimes these hashtags really, really help, right? They align it with the brand and then that awareness gets out there. So, but there are negatives as well. So we had to, I guess, walk this very fine line when it comes to using hashtags. So when the Ice Bucket Challenge came out, I think that it started out as this awareness campaign for ALS. And I think that was great when it started, but eventually got diluted into this random gag people were doing to say, I'm going to tag my friend, make them pour ice on themselves. And in many ways, the message got diluted at some point. So I think for slacktivism, the key is that as long as the branding and the original message does not get faded, I think it's great. So when you're using the hashtags, yes, we can get publicity across like an international platform. Everyone uses Instagram these days. We're all aware of the term hashtags now because that's just something that's out there.
Isn't it amazing how it's percolated into our vernacular? Yeah.
Because now we just talk about it, so it's no big deal. It's like, okay, it's the hashtag this and the hashtag that. So we're used to that. So it's a great way to get awareness for your cause and I think turn it viral in many ways to get the eyes you need for that cause. But I think it's only a pro if you're able to retain that original brand messaging and you're able to still associate the hashtag with that initial cause. Because if we have that still connected, then we can say, okay, it was successful. That's like a great aspect of using the hashtag to create the awareness. But the second that message gets diluted, then we've lost the power of the hashtag. So I think that's where the con is. I think somehow there has to be a way to retain this, the message that began. So I think that's where I see the con as being is that sometimes it just turns into a campaign where everyone's like, oh, this is fun, let's just do this. But I think as long as that initial branding and that initial message stays, it's a pro. Because it does get awareness. Because otherwise these days, especially now in pandemic, we can't do events where the public can come in and you can do charity events or charity galas and everything we used to do before the pandemic. So now we are relying on social media as our message and our outlet. So yes, the hashtags are key. I think they're never going to go away. I think we're going to be using this for a long time to come. So we need to use them correctly. And I think as an attorney, I think one thing I would also suggest is be careful of the branding. Always look it up. Make sure you're not overlapping with someone else's hashtag, because sometimes we associate the hashtag here thinking that this is great, it's working for my message, but it might have been associated elsewhere. So always check that. Always make sure that the branding is correct and you're using something that will help your cause, not harm it.
That's a great tip. Absolutely. Yeah, because you see so many hashtags where like one word is different and it's for a completely different.
It's completely different. So
yeah, totally. Now, what challenges have you had to overcome when it comes to voicing your support for a cause? It could be your own cause or it could be something else.
So what I found really interesting is that when I took on girls' education as my cause, I just assumed that everyone will just be supporting this and I can tap into my friend circle to support it. Because, for example, when I did I Rise by Agents of Harmony, so that one, so that actually came through my media contacts. So whenever I have done anything, whether it's like, my pageantry, like media work, law, I always think, how can I use these to actually help any cause and actually help others as well? Because there are connections there that you don't realize could aid you until a later point. And obviously, friendships are always friendships. I don't think of a friendship with this person as, oh, this is useful, this is not. That's always going to be there. But sometimes you had to tap into these to actually make a change. So I Rise actually took place through my media work, as I knew Ash King really well, who's a singer based in India, who's always ready to support, very nice guy. And he introduced me to this music composer named Amrish Shroff, who is actually a Limca world record holder for music production. So we connected, and I had this very clear mindset. I wanted a women-centric power anthem. And I was like, this has to be done somehow. And I was like, we need to get this out there. This is right when I had started as a Girl Rising ambassador. And I wanted to do a unique fundraiser. I didn't want to fall in line with everything else out there. So that was something I had tapped into, and I had that support. So I Rise came out. I posted it on my Facebook page, and it was only, we were selling it for $2. So all the money could go to charity, because this is for girls' education. Mm-hmm. Only a couple of my friends supported it. So the obstacle that I didn't see was that friends would not want to support simply because they're jealous notions that exist that we don't see as existing. So they thought by contributing to this, oh, it'll bring me up. And I wasn't doing this for myself. This wasn't an individual gain. I was doing this for the girls in India. I specifically said, all this money will be going to girls' education. So there are a few people who supported instantly. One of my pageant directors, the second she found out about it, took out her phone, quickly just ordered it online, said, done, there you go, all set. So there's support there, but it was very surprising to see that there wasn't the support I expected from within my circle. So support came from outside my circle, and through the platform I released to, which was cdbaby.com, they had radio play for it. So the radio plays as she got the donations, because when people heard it, they're like, oh, this is a great track, let me give money towards it. And that's where the actual funds came from, was from completely outside of my circle. And one girl who actually had heard the track had messaged me online to say that she was actually contemplating suicide that day. And when I read this, I was kind of looking at this like, oh my God, this is like, I was like, I'm not sure where this message is going to go. And as I read it, she said that, but then your song played on the radio. And she's like, it gave me the strength I needed to not go through the steps. And I realized I could make a change. So I was looking at this and I was thinking to myself, it's helping others. It's making a change. But those that were close to me, who I expected would just say, here you go. Yes, I will support your track. This is where it should go. I didn't see that this obstacle existed. But I think that luckily there are means to always get around these obstacles. And I think that's key. So in terms of the obstacle there, that was a local one that I didn't see. But when we look at girls' education itself, I see that obstacles are still existing for them in the rural communities. Here I'm growing up pretty much, I feel like, in privilege in the US, where yes, we do see these pocket instances of discrimination against women and girls in education. But those obstacles are just still so high. They have too many barriers to access. So even right now, if a family has a choice whether they want to educate their son or the daughter, they're still choosing the son, because they still see it as a son staying within their family. They see girls as going to another family, but they don't see that that girl is going to then change the world. She will be having children. She will be contributing to this world, carrying forward a family. But they don't see these. And those are the barriers that I think exist in these rural communities. And even now, I think I read a statistic that during COVID, the numbers for girls getting education has declined. And in these communities, there's still a paternalistic mindset. We still see that, they still think men are the ones making the change, and they don't see the contribution women are making. Meanwhile, here in one of my law classes, actually, the professor said, if you sit down and put a financial amount next to everything your mom does during the day, everything the woman's doing in the day, it'll far exceed the amount that's coming in through the male side. So it was a very curious perspective. I hadn't really thought of it that way until he said, put a number next to it and you'll see. So these are things I think we need to try to break down. I think there's still this cultural mindset that women can't make as much of a change as they can. And we just had to look around to see examples. So even here, it's like I look at you and I see the change that you've made, the difference you're making. And that's something that I think people shouldn't forget. So yes, obstacles still exist. And for me, I was surprised that it was, in terms of support, is where the obstacle was existing. And luckily, my parents, my family supported me, but I did expect more from my circle. I think we need to realize that everyone can rise together. So if someone is succeeding and doing well, that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. We need to realize that everyone is coming up. Everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own path. And sometimes I think we're quick to think, oh, this person's doing it, so I won't support. But support the cause. Look at the cause and not the individual. I think that's a better way of looking at it, because we need all the voices to come up and support.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I need to ask you though, like, what was it? Have you had any resistance from the South Asian community specifically? Is that who you're referring to?
Oh, no. So this is just friends in general who just didn't support it. I think it's just sometimes like, but what was interesting is some of them wrote to me to be like, oh, who did you contact? How did you do this song? How do I do this song? Without even saying, let me contribute and help you out. And then if I didn't reply immediately, they had actually unfriended too, because so I was like, this is like really interesting to see. I was like, and some people just try to steal the context. I saw a lot of ads for for our mission, all these people who are helping out. And then obviously those friendships didn't like stay as much in terms of seeing what's happening, because I think that for me, this song was something that I thought would be a great way to both empower women, because it's a very strong like women empowerment theme that I had written. And I would thought that this is a good way to get funds for women in India, because it was only $2. So it was $1 on iTunes. That's like all those platforms were the same, Spotify, etc. It's the general rate. On CD Baby, we did $2, thinking it'll be enough to get more funds towards the girls, because all these platforms take cuts from any sale. So I thought that way, the more we can do, the more we can get funds over to the girls. And the South Asian community overall, I think I've never faced any resistance from them for anything I do. I've been lucky that the community I have in New York, New Jersey, they've become like family. So I miss them immensely when I'm here, because even through media, the South Asian media community has been excellent. I've been so blessed to have hosted for channels like ZTV and all these like top channels, TV Asia, Awesome TV, all of these. And I think they're always ready to support. So even if I were to do anything, they'll be quick to publish it or write about it. They've written articles in all these publications. Even when I got my I think the Gopio Award, and even when I was honored by the White House, all these things they supported and they were able to do. But I think the South Asian community still sees women not as capable as men. So I remember for some emceeing gigs, if I'm the female MC and the only one there, they'll be like, we should get a male MC to accompany her. But if it's a male MC, we never see them saying we need a female MC to accompany. So these are the little things that exist still within our community. So I wouldn't say that it's so much resistance, but I think it's the mindset is still there. Somehow it's still inherent in is that if there's a female MC, she might not be able to do the job the male does. And these little things still exist. And luckily for me at one of the emceeing gigs I had, Bapi Da was actually one of the chief guests they had, and he was so supportive. He told me, so it was very sweet of him. He said that, he's like, I've seen MCs in Bollywood and Hollywood both, and he's like, you're the most intelligent MC I've seen. So I got that support from him. And to hear that from someone who's a legend like this, I think it gives you that confidence, because even then, it was just incredible to see that some people are ready to support. Some people see everything without these categories, right? Like, you look at me and just see, okay, this is my MC. They won't see female. They won't see, oh, she's a lawyer. They won't see these little like categories and labels. They see it as just an individual. So the South Asian community itself, I think, overall, we still need to work towards acknowledging that girls are still capable. I mean, even if you look at DJs, there aren't as many female DJs as male DJs. But some of the female DJs are just leading the pack. They're making change. Like DJ Rick comes to mind immediately. And to see the sort of advocacy they do, the changes they're able to make. So I think that's something that's been there. And I think, as I was saying, in the rural communities, there's still this paternalistic mindset that still dominates. And that's something I hope we can break down culturally. And for me, I've been very, very blessed that my parents are just supportive. And as I was saying, my dad is someone who is very proud of everything his girls do. And he said that girls need to come up in the world. And that's something that I was lucky to grow up with that mindset. So I just grew up thinking I can do whatever I can. Yeah. I was sort of like a tomboy, I feel like, growing up because of the way my dad taught us. So it's not like we were doing traditional roles that we think of for girls. We were doing other things. And I always just saw the world genderless in a way then. And I think it wasn't, and even in terms of racism, all these other things, I wasn't exposed to that. Luckily, yeah. I grew up in a town where we were the only Indian family for generations, for years, and still there was no racism. I think that's it. I grew up blessed, I think, to see the world as just this total unit instead of broken down, and that made a change. So no, in terms of resistance, South Asian community has actually been pretty supportive, except for minor things here and there.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Now we are at the end of our show, but I cannot leave without asking you this really important question. How do you get people to actually action their advocacy? Really quickly, let me know your thoughts.
Very quick. So I would just like to say, do not think that you can't make a difference, right? Start finding organizations that match your interests. You can Google this, you can look it up, reach out to them directly, say to them, how can I help you? What areas do you need help in? I think that you can make a game plan, write out what you want to help with. You can always look up organizations. Everything's accessible these days. Cell phone numbers are out there, contacts are there. Reach out to friends who are helping causes in case you could aid them as well. And don't feel that you can't make a difference. As I said before, it takes only one person to make a change, and really believe in that mindset that one person can make a difference and you could be that person. So I don't think we should always sit back. Don't act that, don't feel that you won't make a change. You can make that change, but you had to take steps to do it. So
excellent.
And even if it's something small, like we said earlier, if you can share a hashtag for a cause that you're interested in, that's at least a start. So at least begin somewhere.
Perfect. Thank you, Rupa. Thank you so much for being a guest on the ANOKHI Uncensored Show. And congratulations for being named as part of the ANOKHI Advocate list.
Thank you so much. I think I've been so very blessed to be part of this initiative. And I think you guys have done a great job curating this and working hard to showcase what people are doing around the world. And I think ANOKHI will always stay ANOKHI. There's not going to be another publication media site like this that's as unique and as supportive of the South Asian community for so many years. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you all for tuning into the ANOKHI Uncensored Show. I will see you next time.